Welcome to some new r/MaliciousCompliance stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. But first, thank you for subscribing to the channel and for all those likes. Today we have 3 great stories, so let's get right into them, shall we? The first story is called Always Do As You Are Told. This dates back to 1998. I had been working construction for a year as a drywall finisher spreading mud when I was offered a job on a big crew. The only reason they wanted me was to be a translator between English and French. I was good, but not fast or great at this point. But hey, $18 an hour was good money. We were working on a 5-story building. It was the first time I really had seen just the bones of a building. For those who are unfamiliar with this era of construction, I'm going to give a little background on how it worked on sites this big. Each company had its own construction trailer. No one really had email, so each trailer had a couple of phone lines and a secretary. This building was for a real estate company. It was to be their headquarters. It was designed by an architect in New York as a favor to the owner of the building. So here's where the problem goes. My boss Al had all the framing, hanging the drywall, finished the seams and acoustic ceiling tiles with metal grid. Al goes to the general contractor with an issue on the 3rd floor training room. We got a height problem with the 3rd floor ceiling. What's wrong now? He's got it at 4 feet off the floor. Wait, what? Yeah, both ceilings reflect the plan and elevation shows 4 feet off the finished floor. If I scale it, it would be 12 feet. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. Go ahead and send a request for information. Back then, requests for information were different than today. Usually meant someone was going to have to pay. So Al faxes over the request for information and marks it urgent. When the request for information comes back, they were sent to both the general contractor and the subcontractor. So I'm sitting with Al and the general contractor, just chatting around. And both secretaries come out to the side, almost running with high heels through the debris. Both had a grin on their face. I'm thinking, oh man, this will be good. Slow down ladies, where's the fire? You got an urgent fax. We got the request for information back. She was looking at the other secretary, giggling. They look at their paper, then look at me, and the general contractor reads it out loud. Request for information from the office of Bad Architect Inc. Urgent request information of discrepancies on ceiling height from L office about training room X. Answer: how hard is it for you construction workers to understand to never scale anything? I don't make mistakes. Refer to page A804 for detailed height instructions. Q the malicious compliance. Well, what does A804 say about ceiling heights? 4 feet. Hey, do you think you can translate that to the ceiling guys and tell them it's a hot priority? I want it done by Sunday. You heard him. Tell him to drop what he's doing and go to it. I go to the guy and they greet me with a tabernacle, French-Canadian cuss word. Are you nuts, kid? I tell them what had transpired and told them that Al said to make it 4 feet. They grumbled, saying they would charge to do it again. Now, this training room wasn't your typical space. It was 300 feet long by 40 feet wide that could be separated to make multiple training rooms or one giant one with folding partition. Monday comes and the general contractor instructs the electrician to install all the lights as per prints. Yes, even his prints had 4 feet notation. Typically we would wait for electrical inspection, but we didn't. By Wednesday the crew is putting tiles in. Saturday comes and there's an owner meeting where he walks the job site with the general contractor and talks about progress. Everything is going good till he gets to the 3rd floor training room door and sees a bar 4 feet from the ground and all the wires for the ceiling in plain sight. What in the hell is this? Don't you know how to read blueprints? Yes sir, we do, and we did. We also sent an RFI. Show him the facts. Yeah, he definitely has an ego from hell. Do you have everything documented, pictures and all? You know it. Okay, now do it at 12 feet, 4 feet from the deck. You're making 20% on the screw up, aren't you? 20% to the build invoice. We're going to have a demo crew come in, then all new material, plus the crew already said it's going to be 50% upcharge since we're preventing them from going to the next site. Yeah, just be happy it's not coming out of your pocket. Because the architect gave wrong information and it was built as per his guidelines, he had to fork out a few thousands out of his own pocket to ask them construction workers to fix his mistake. Learned 2 valuable lessons that day. First, always do as you are told, no matter if it makes sense. Second, document everything, no matter how trivial, it will cover you. The next story is called Too Loud in an Open Office. I just turned 20 and was the youngest guy at a company I just half a year started working for. The guy that was just a bit older was over 30. But he and I could get along really well, and I was lucky, since I'm quite an introvert, that he took me into a small group of really nice colleagues that were more friends than just work buddies. The office we worked in looked really nice, but all the levels were connected with a large open area. So when someone on the first floor was making a call, people on the third floor could follow the entire conversation. This wasn't a huge deal most of the time, because we always had a radio turned on and people who wanted to concentrate just put on headphones. Overall, a very informal workplace and no real management layer, just a couple of directors and no actual managers. I and the rest of the group were sitting on the top floor, and since my buddy was a lunatic, we were laughing and just chatting a bit. In comes a message from the CEO, asking me to come into the meeting room, which was only one of 2 closed offices in the entire building. This wasn't that strange, since even though I was young, I had particular skills which the company relied on, so they often asked if I could join a meeting. But this time only the CEO sat there, and instead of the usual joking around, he asked me to sit down like a school principal would if you did something wrong. I noticed that you are coming along nicely with a lot of your colleagues, and I think they really have respect for you. The thing is, it's rather noisy lately, but I don't want them thinking I'm sort of a police officer demanding them to stay quiet since we're all friends in here. So I want you to keep the noise levels down and tell them to stay productive. I told him that I would pass on the message, but that it didn't look like it was my place to tell the people who worked here for years and are at least 10 years older than I was that they had to obey my authority, since I didn't feel I had any. Well, since the rest of the group dug into the meeting calendar and found out that there wasn't any planned, they instantly looked at me when I came back with those big eyes which are ready for gossip. I passed on the message and they were all a bit shocked, stating that they were like this for years and never had any trouble. A couple of weeks later, I get called into the meeting room again by the CEO. My colleagues directly noticed how I walked away from my desk and that I was called in again, as I had my head worried about what the issue was this time. No one else was called in the meantime. Just me. And yes, I was asked to sit down again, and the CEO began with a huge sigh. The office is still very noisy. I had a really simple request to keep it down, and you just couldn't listen. You're even the one talking the loudest of all. I was raised to not interrupt people, but that time I did. Well, you've stated before that I have a deep voice that carries through the entire building. Since then, I've done my best to keep my voice down. It didn't matter as he continued his lecture. In the end, he made a conclusion. I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to split you guys up. You guys are no longer allowed to sit where you want, even though we have a flexible workspace. I'm starting with you. You'll be sitting across from me on the first floor. It's not for the noise, it's just better for your productivity. I'll be informing the rest, and you are not allowed to discuss this with them at all. So, being both mad and flabbergasted, I took my laptop and backpack without saying a word and moved to the first floor. I picked up my headphones, which I normally never use, put them on and went to town on my work. This became my routine for 2 weeks. If someone had a question, sorry, I have to concentrate on my work. If they needed me in a meeting in order to get a new client, I responded with, I won't be able to be as productive as I need to be. And most of all, I worked exactly the hours I was paid to, instead of coming in 30 minutes early and staying 30 minutes longer as well. The CEO started noticing me turning bitter and tried turning it around. Hi, lovely day, ain't it? Which I responded to with, I'm putting on my headphones again. Want me to grab you a cup of coffee? No, I'm good, thanks. Even though I still worked hard during working hours, it became noticeable that the hourly rate dropped. My colleagues started complaining to the directors that they really needed my expertise, but that I wasn't available for them. The CEO loved calling me into his office, but now that he had to admit to his defeat, I just received a small message while he sat across me. You are free to sit wherever you want. It has come to my attention that it is in the interest of the company if I give you and your colleagues a bit more freedom. He continued to bug me about leaving 5 minutes early, even if I came in 30 minutes before I had to, but he never dared to talk about my work ethics ever again. Moral of the story, don't try to push for more productivity, it might backfire. The last story is called Want to Mess With Me? 1 month ago today, my manager pulls me into his office to tell me that my foreman think I'm too slow, that I'm not picking up techniques quickly enough and that I don't really seem excited enough to work in a warehouse, that I make too many mistakes and that he is not going to keep me on at the end of my probation at this rate. Then he finished it off with, mate, you need to sort it out or get another job. So I explained that I have never been late once, never called in sick, I treat everybody with respect, I always finish all of my work, then make sure my bay is clean, then help other people finish theirs. At this point he interrupts me and tells me that F-Bay is the easiest bay, which turns into a conversation where he threatens to put me in the most dangerous and difficult bay. I say that I have been known to occasionally pull the wrong length off, but I've seen other people completely load trucks with the wrong stock. And I tell him that my bay is hands down the cleanest bay in the warehouse, which is apparently the cleanest warehouse owned by that company. So I think, screw it, my foremen are jokers and take very little seriously. One of them likely said something as a joke that the manager took seriously, and a little conversation was sorted out. I pull the foreman for that week to the side and explain the situation. He says, "I want you on the crew, mate. I think you're a good lad." So I figure it's probably the other guy anyway. His jokes are usually of the "you're bad and I'm the best" variety, so it would make sense. So I plan to ask him the next day at a shift changeover. Then I get there the next day, and the first thing I hear is my bay took 3 men, including the manager himself, 40 minutes to clean, and the manager is mad. This got a genuinely good laugh out of me. Turned out they were completely serious. I completely forget about talking to my other foreman and ask the guys who cleaned my bay about it. About an hour into my shift, I'm angry, and the manager comes to rub it in my face. I mentioned that I performed a lift in eBay earlier that day, and 4 pieces of loose banding, which are slash, stab and tripping hazards, fell off of it. This was an attempt to make the point that I walk past every bay with actual hazards in them to clean my bay, which had 0. This sociopath gives me this little grin, shrugs and says, "Yeah?" Which had a bully's "what you gonna do about it" vibe to it. That's when the penny dropped. I'd heard about him messing with people for the sake of it, and right now he can mess with me for a month. And then he can use it as an excuse to extend my probation, keeping me on literally the bare minimum they can legally pay me for another 6 months. So I put on my poker face to not give him the satisfaction, and any complaint is met with a pretty blank "okay." So for the month just gone, I spotted every mistake coming from the office. Usually we just cross things out and correct them, because the guys in the office don't have a clue. I haven't made a single mistake for the month. They are regular occurrences for everybody. You are told they don't matter unless they leave the warehouse. That is, except of course for the manager apparently. The office had made about 2 to 3 a day, which I've taken to the manager personally to have corrected. I'm teaching my foreman tricks that he didn't know. Literally 3 days out of 5 I taught him something. My bay is insanely clean, to the point that I'd argue I clearly must have been wasting time to get it that clean. I've been getting friendly with the director of the company. He's actually a really nice guy, as it turns out. But basically, my performance has not just been the great performance they usually get from me, they've gotten such an amazing performance that it's absurd. The last I was told was that I am going to be fired today, or that I'd better get another job or sort out my performance. Well, before 2020, I happened to be a pretty decent bartender slash manager. I've just landed hands down the best job of my career. I'm going to be the head bartender at a 4-star hotel spa and golf course with marble columns and a driveway with a flower feature, a waterfall and a view of the giant grounds just on the driveway. Well, I think he didn't see that coming when he started with his crap. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.